Alright, today I will be cleaning and rebuilding a carburetor on a 2005 Polaris Magnum 330. I've got the carburetor off of the four-wheeler already, but I was going to show you a couple steps to remove it off of the four-wheeler. We've got your throttle housing here, your thumb throttle here, and this has your all-wheel drive switch included with it. We've got our throttle cable that runs down and runs into our carburetor here under this black cover. To adjust the throttle cable on this model, you've got a small plastic lock nut here, and then you can move this back and forth. You never want to adjust this to adjust your idle. We've got a separate idle screw that I'll show you. This is primarily for allowing some slack in the cable. If you don't have any slack, you want to adjust your cable right here at this setting so that there is just a slight tiny bit of slack in this cable so that your throttle is not revved up. It's not engaging your carburetor here without even touching the throttle. So you want to make sure that there is a little bit of free play in that cable. We don't have nearly enough right here. This is too tight for a couple different reasons, and I'll show you those. So we're going to flip this over. We've got our throttle cable here. Like I said, we've got our choke cable here. To remove our throttle cable, and I've already turned this a couple screws out because it is a little bit time consuming to pull this throttle cable off. It's just an 8mm wrench, and you just loosen it like this. But before we do that, I like to remove this cover. There are 4 Phillips screws to remove this side cover here, and then we'll be able to see the throttle cable on the side here. So we've got the cover off. Make sure those screws stay together, they're the right size, and we've got our throttle cable coming down here. So the reason why that I started removing this cable already just to save a little bit of time so you weren't having to watch me do this constantly, as you can't get a real good turn on there. Once it is loosened though, a lot of times you can use your fingers and just turn that out. Now what you're going to do to remove this cable, I take and I push up on the actual butterfly, this arm here, and what that does is when you push the throttle on your thumb throttle, that opens up your butterfly here down in your carburetor. So same thing, if you adjust your idle here, this is your idle adjust, and you can use your fingers and your thumb to adjust this. You screw it clockwise and in, it will rev your four-wheeler up. Now when you do that, you can see there when you're idling your four-wheeler up or you're trying to get it to idle higher, you are opening this butterfly up a little bit more, allowing more air to flow through there. So that's essentially, you hit your thumb throttle, you're pulling that up right there, and that is allowing more air to flow through there, allowing more fuel to be sucked up from your bowl of your carburetor, and you will speed up. Now to remove this cable here, what I do is take a screwdriver, or if you can get in there with your thumb, and I like to hold it just like that, and I take this, I want to do this in a spot that you can see it, take this around and just pry up on this cable here, and it'll slide out of a groove. There's a little brass fitting that your cable will fit down into, and then it'll slide out of the groove that's in your butterfly. Now there's a groove also in this brass fitting that you can just slide that cable right out from the side. Now we can let our throttle go. We can finish unscrewing this. And then as soon as that's unscrewed, now it is a challenge because you're turning your entire throttle cable, so your throttle actually needs to spin with it so you don't break that cable there. So we've got that throttle up, now you just pull that cable out. Now the throttle is off. Okay, now as far as our choke is concerned, we've got a 12mm metal screw here, a brass screw, and we loosen that up with this. And again, there's not a lot of room in here to turn this, so a lot of times if it's not turning smoothly, you've got to put that wrench on there and turn it. It just takes a little while. Now underneath here is going to be our plunger, and there'll be a spring. So I'm going to spin this choke out so I can show you what it looks like there. Pull that out. There's your plunger, there's your spring. To remove your plunger now, what I do is take 2 fingers, with a thumb and a finger here, pull back on the spring, and then that'll allow you to slide that cable out of that plunger. There's your plunger there. Now we have our spring disconnected there, and then our cap there can be removed as well. We've got an 8mm nut here, and then put your 12mm on there to remove that cap, and that cap will be separate.